Hey loves, it's Britt, and in this video I'm talking about Moon square to Saturn in Synastry. I'm doing all these difficult aspects in Synastry today. This one is definitely on the more difficult side for sure. So, this aspect is very karmic in nature. We have Saturn, the planet of karma, making the square tension aspect with the moon, our emotional self, our inner feminine, our inner child, and our habitual emotional responses to life. Um, the moon person can really feel like the Saturn person is extremely judgmental towards them. And the Saturn person, even without meaning to, gives the moon person this disapproval. And, it's really coming from their childhood as well, like their own fathering energy, the energy that they were brought up in as far as Saturn, which is kind of like a part of the inner father energy, really comes out towards the moon person, even unconsciously. It's not like this isn't a Mercury aspect, it's unless Saturn is connected to Mercury too. It's not like we're communicating this, it's just the moon person, because the moon is where we are the most sensitive, really gets this feeling of like being judged or disapproval from the Saturn person. And the Saturn person really, too, can feel like the moon's emotions, the moon's dreams for life, and what the moon is trying to achieve for emotional security and fulfillment. The Saturn person can really feel like that is all like superficial or childish or naive, and like they can feel like the moon person is immature. So it's really funny if the Saturn person is much younger in the relationship. So, like, if we're talking an age gap relationship, this can sometimes show up as, or I've experienced it as this, where the Saturn person acts all parental towards the moon person, and the moon person actually seems like the younger person, even though they're actually the older person. And this actually can show up in an age gap relationship, making the younger person actually seem older than the older person. And so, a lot of people wonder how like age gap relationships can work out when, we're from different generations, or we're, coming from different backgrounds or whatever. Well, you just throw in an aspect like this, and the moon person, even if they're 20 years older, is going to feel like they're relating with their father. So it definitely it definitely ages the Saturn person. Now it could also show up in the reversal, where maybe the Saturn person is older, and then we're still working out some father issues. So the moon person usually is working out some inner child healing as well, like with the Saturn person, and usually not in an easy way. The square aspect is more active than the trine or the sextile. So the healing is bound to happen, but it usually comes up in a more difficult way, and sometimes it is just too difficult. It's like we both get a sense early on in this relationship that we're just not right for each other, or that we're not going to be able to share in joys and in like the moon can also represent our home life. So we can just get a sense early on that living together will not be a positive experience. But, you could have other aspects going on to mitigate this. You could have, other good aspects, which I hope you would, to that person's moon. And then maybe, even though sometimes they feel Saturn's disapproval, maybe they have like moon trine Venus or something. And so they do agree on things of shared values and stuff like that. So you have to look at everything because usually this aspect won't be in isolation. And you do almost rather prefer Saturn being aspected, even if it's in a negative aspect, because Saturn likes to work things out, right? Saturn, ruled by Capricorn, Saturn is in it for the long haul. Saturn wants to climb up the mountain like the goat and get to the top and deal with the stress and the problems, so even in a difficult aspect like this, you could see Saturn wanting to work it out, but Moon might not, because Moon might not like the way that Saturn makes them feel. And Saturn doesn't mean to make them feel that way, but they just do. And it's because of these issues, like I said, Saturn being very parental, very fatherly, usually more on the judgmental side, and Moon being more emotional and hurt by Saturn's coldness and Saturn's lack of understanding, or lack of even trying to understand what the moon person is feeling and what the moon person truly cares about and what they need to feel safe and secure. So it's often going to be the moon person that doesn't want to work this out because it's too harsh. So whenever we have a synastry where someone's moon is highly afflicted, because sometimes you'll see this, like you'll see someone's moon receiving like a ton of squares to the other person's chart, and when you see that, you just know that like that moon person is going to feel hurt. And it's not even necessarily that the outer planet person is meaning to hurt them, it's just it does not feel very good for your moon to receive many squares without any other positive aspects. So yeah, but if this is the only square to the moon, it could be resolvable, but the moon person has to really understand where the Saturn person is coming from. And in most cases, it's not that the Saturn person is coming from a mean place necessarily. They just come off that way, right? And you have to look at the signs that this square is taking place in. Mutable signs, this is probably a bit easier. Although Virgo can be really judgy. I always say that whenever I'm talking about a mutable square, I'm like, yeah, mutable squares are easy except Virgo. That's different. But yeah, you have to look at the signs that are squared off here. And, with your knowledge of astrology, because you have this knowledge, you're watching this video, you can make an effort to resolve this because you know the different energies that you're coming from, and you can communicate this. And you can say, look, my moon needs this. My moon needs you, Saturn, to, appreciate me more in these qualities and recognize these are my emotional needs. And then Saturn can explain to Moon, like, look, this is just my karmic energy. This is like, my authoritative inner parent energy. This is like what I'm here working on in this lifetime. I don't mean to be personally attacking you with it, Moon, but it's just an unconscious part of me that I can't really help, right? So, anyways, yeah, that's a bit of this aspect. It does tend to be very sticky. It does tend to be like, when you're in this aspect, there is this weird, eerie feeling of like fatedness and like this is a karmic connection. And I do feel that it is a karmic connection. I do feel that it's a potential soulmate connection because of, the potential for healing that we have here, but the healing just tends to be more difficult to attain with the square, but potentially more rewarding because of the square, because the square gets us going, right? It's so tense that we're forced to deal with this. So a lot of parental issues coming up, and yeah, it's an interesting one to see. I don't think it's a deal breaker like some, I don't think any aspects are a deal breaker, but I wouldn't even really consider it a red flag if you once you know these things, because you can make it conscious. It's not like Neptune, where it's like you can try your hardest to see it clearly and you still might not. But with Saturn, it's like we want to work it out. We can work on this, and it will take work. It will take effort to coexist in a union, which some people won't want to do. But if you must do it, I think you'll be okay. So I'd love to know your experience of this aspect. Was it like this? Was it not like this? Let me know in the comments, you guys. And yeah, keep your requests coming. And thank you so much for watching. We'll talk soon. Bye.